Hi everyone, good day and welcome to Ask the Expert session on how to improve security operations with Azure Sentinel, your cloud-native SIEM. We have some exciting announcements today and we have a lot of experts, our team available to answer your questions. But first, a few housekeeping slides. Uh, Number one, to ask your questions, please use the chat window. Our team is available to engage with you. Number two, please upvote your favorite questions so that we know the popular ones, the common ones that we can pull up and answer that for everyone on camera. This session will be recorded and we want to enable a respectful and fun experience for everyone. So we request you to adhere to Microsoft Code of Conduct that I'm going to share here for your benefit, and it will also be shared in the chat window. Now with that, I will introduce our experts today. And Jordan and Sarah, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us what you do. Jordan?
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you, AJ. Hi, everyone. My name is Jordan Ross. I am a program manager on the customer experience engineering team, where I work across Azure security and have a focus on Sentinel.
And I'm Sarah Fender. I lead product management for Azure Sentinel here in the US.
Thanks, Jordan and Sarah. And I'm AJ, and I'm a director in the Azure security business. With that, we will start our session. And again, I encourage you all to use the chat window and ask us questions. Sarah, many people may have attended your session that just went live. But for those who didn't, can you recap all the innovations that we have announced today?
Well, I'll try. There was a very long list. I encourage you to check out the session. There's also a blog post, and we can put that in the notes that point you or into the Q&A chat window that'll point you to the complete list in case I forget something. But three big categories of innovations. One is on the analytics front. So there we've got new user and entity behavioral analytics and entity profile pages where you get a complete look at entities like users and hosts. There are new machine learning capabilities, including both built-in ML detections, particularly those that fuse alerts from multiple sources into high-fidelity incidents. Also, we've migrated our Notebooks platform to operate on top of the Azure Machine Learning Service, which enables a number of new capabilities, improves ease of use. And then finally, a new framework that helps organizations that want to build their own machine learning on top of data in Azure Sentinel. The second big bucket is around intelligence, and there we have a new threat intelligence experience in Azure Sentinel that provides kind of a one-stop to search and manage and tag all of your threat indicators. Also, new integrations with some third-party threat intelligence services were announced. And then a new capability that helps you bring in other kinds of intelligence like business context in the form of watch list and Azure Sentinel. And then finally, a new set of capabilities around data collection. We're constantly adding new collection mechanisms, new data connectors. And so we have a host of those that we're announcing for Microsoft services as well as third parties. And then another new update in that category relates to normalization. So we're rolling out the first of our normalized data schemas, and the first of those being around networking data. So I think that covers the highlights, but hopefully we can share out that blog link as well in case I missed anything.
Yeah, we will certainly do that at the end of the session, all the resources, including the blog. One question that has come up here as well as during your session is that Microsoft has a lot of security solutions available today with Microsoft 365 Defender and Azure Sentinel. Can you talk about more of the integration that we are planning to do, what we have today, and how these solutions can be used in complement to each other?
Absolutely. So we're in a really unique and we think privileged position here at Microsoft that we have the combination of really amazing threat protection solutions now under the Microsoft Defender brand that cover, that provide protection for endpoints and identities and Office 365 and all of your Azure services. Now, Azure Sentinel really builds upon that by consuming all of the insights and signals from the Microsoft suite, as well as all of your other security products and services, and even other clouds like AWS. And so Azure Sentinel, provides a view across your entire digital estate. Now, for our Microsoft services, we've got great integration. In many cases, just one click will enable you to connect data sources from Microsoft 365 and Azure. And as I mentioned earlier, we've got some new integrations that we're announcing at Ignite this week. Those include a new connector for Microsoft 365 endpoint data that brings in all of the endpoint raw data logs. That's been a common request from our customers. We've got Office 365 alerts that are being integrated, and the final one I believe is Microsoft Teams, which we announced a few weeks ago. So just filling out the set of Microsoft data sources that are easy to integrate into Azure Sentinel.
Awesome. Now let's switch gears. Jordan, there was a question about MSSPs or managed security service offerings, and many customers are using MSSPs to manage their security operations. What are options with Azure Sentinel?
Yeah, there's a number of capabilities that partners have available to them today where they can manage multiple customers and ease that experience of working through incidents and performing those investigations. And there are capabilities such as Sentinel's cross workspace initiatives where you can view incidents across different workspaces. And there's some additional blogs out there today that look at managing Sentinel as code or looking at delivering analytic rules or workbooks to visualize data across multiple customers. And that's really empowered with Azure Lighthouse. That's great.
Now, Sarah, there are a couple of questions that came up even during your session about pricing and what is the cost associated with Azure Sentinel. And I would broaden that up to, because there is a question here as well on sizing and estimation of data that is ingested. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So it is a common question. Customers are interested to know how we price the Sentinel solution. And we do that based on the volume of data that's being ingested into the system. And we believe this provides the greatest flexibility to our customers. And so you really only pay for the data you consume. We do offer some reservation pricing that enables you to kind of lock in some price discounts, but even those you can modify on a month-by-month basis, again, to give you the flexibility to tune that up or down as your data volume demands change. And then in terms of estimating, there is a simple estimator that's available online. And I think there's a link to that I saw in the live event Q&A. And then also we've got some tools that our Microsoft Field uses to help you estimate data volumes based on the particular data sources that you're ingesting. And so I'd encourage you to reach out to your Microsoft account person, or if you don't have one, feel free to ping me or AJ after the event, and we can help get you connected to some more information and insights that will help you with that estimation component.
Great. And on that topic, would you like to share some of the cost-saving offers and benefits that we are providing and announced today as well?
Yeah, so I can do that. We're super excited about a couple of new offers that are one that's being announced today and one that launched recently. And the one that we announced today provides significant savings for organizations that adopt Azure Sentinel as their SIEM, as well as the Microsoft Defender platform for their XDR. And so that offers these significant savings based on the number of licenses, or I'm sorry, the number of seats, the number of users that the organization is licensing the Microsoft Defender suite for. So I think an average customer could save somewhere on the order of $1,500 a month if they've got 3,500 Microsoft Defender suites. AJ, is that correct? Keep me honest here. Yes, okay, he's nodding yes. So that's an exciting new offer. And then we have another offer that released just a couple of weeks back that provides some monetary assistance for customers that are migrating or increasing their deployment of Azure Sentinel. So I think that offers an incentive somewhere in the range of up to $25,000 for customers that are ramping up their deployment or migrating from another SIEM solution. So a couple of new ways to save money on Azure Sentinel.
That's great.
And of course, the existing way, which is the first 31 days, I believe, as you get started with Sentinel, that's free of a cost right there. So you can start using Sentinel and see how it's performing for your SOC right there.
That's a great call out, Jordan, and a great way to get started with Azure Sentinel. It's super easy, especially to connect those Microsoft data sources. So we find that a lot of customers will get started that way, just as a means to kind of try it out and see what the experiences are like and start playing with some of the threat hunting tools and that sort of thing. So it's a great way to sort of dip your toe in the water with a minimal to no cost investment.
That's a great segue, because there is a question, Jordan, which says that is Sentinel something that can be efficiently run by a small security team? So what would you say, given that you work with customers daily on deployment?
Yeah, I've worked with customers of all sizes, whether it's our top enterprises or our small, medium businesses. And Sentinel is a tool that you can get started with today easily. The data connectors allow you to really bring in and visualize, unfortunately, incoming threats rather easily with about 2 clicks. And whether it's by looking at the Microsoft data sources, and as Sarah pointed out, a lot of those come with no cost of ingestion. It's a really great tool to visualize threats and respond to suspicious activity. And so it's equipped for all organizations, and for you smaller organizations out there, there's a tech community out there where you can directly plug in with our engineering and get support from us too.
You are making my job easy, Jordan. This is such a segue after segue after segue. There's a question here on how do I share my custom alert queries on Sentinel GitHub community? How do I get started? So can both of you talk about community and what we are doing there?
Yeah, sure. I can get started with that. So the Azure Sentinel community is hosted in GitHub. It's a great place for everyone working across threats, empowering Sentinel as their SIEM for their SOC, where we host all of these artifacts that you can use. You can configure them, you can bring them directly into your Sentinel instance, and you can add to the community too. We recently had a hackathon where we had submissions from people all over the world of different artifacts that they would like to see included in Sentinel. So the GitHub community is where you can go to see analytic rules, to end up being incidents to investigate, visualizations such as workbooks, hunting queries, and so on.
And I would just add, I know not everyone is familiar or comfortable with GitHub. And so for those of you who just want to take advantage of that content, after the content's been submitted, and when I say content, I mean things like analytic rules and the other things that Jordan mentioned, once those have been submitted on GitHub and validated, they actually show up inside the various Azure Sentinel experiences. So for those of you who aren't GitHub experts or comfortable in the GitHub environment, much of that content is available from right inside the Azure Sentinel portal experiences.
That's great. Another common question that we get, why use Sentinel versus just using Azure Security Center? And before you give your opinion, I just wanted to set the stage that Azure Security Center had cloud security posture management capabilities and threat protection capabilities for specific workloads. Now we have rebranded it, so the threat protection capabilities in Azure Security Center are now called Azure Defender. So you have Azure Defender for IoT, Azure Defender for servers, etc. And Azure Security Center is still available to do cloud security posture management. So Sarah, how can Azure Security Center and Azure Defender work with Sentinel, and how are they complementary?
Sure. So all of the insights and detections that are powered by Azure Sentinel, those can be connected to your Azure Sentinel environment, again, in just a click or two. And so all of those rich insights are exposed there. Now, what Azure Sentinel is going to add is the ability to correlate those insights from your Azure environments with other aspects of your digital estate. So the ability to consume data and insights from your client devices or your on-prem networks or other cloud environments. So in order for a security operations center to really be able to respond to threats across the organization, they need that breadth of visibility. And so Azure Sentinel enables you to bring all of that log data, all of those detections into a central place for threat hunting and threat response and investigation.
Great. There is a question about, can I integrate CrowdStrike logs? So maybe we broaden it up and talk about, different security solutions are being used by our customers, and what both of you talked about built-in connectors and how easy it is to set up. But can we go a little bit deeper into log ingestion and what kind of support we have?
Yeah, there's so many ways to get logs into Sentinel, and probably the top question that we hear from customers all the time is, can I get this X data source into Sentinel? And even if there isn't a built-in data connector, which is the first answer, to get that data into Sentinel, it doesn't mean you can't get it in. And so the first choice is built-in data connectors. Within 2 clicks or so, you're able to stream that data to be viewed and analyzed directly from Sentinel. If we don't have a built-in connector for you, we have generic collectors too. This is a way that you can use syslog and Ceph or common event format to bring those logs that's already rich security data directly in Sentinel, and you can build analytics on top of that. But if that doesn't apply to you too, you're still not out of luck. You have REST APIs where you can bring those logs in there and build logic apps to actually bring the data in. And there's a lot of those built out in our GitHub community too. There's a great blog out there, and I hope someone posts it in the chat window, which goes over just about any data source you can think of. And it is our collecting logs grand list that goes over all of these different methods.
Got it. And Sarah, there is a question about Office 365 and Azure IaaS traffic counted for ingestion. I think that question is about the free data sources that we offer in Azure Sentinel. Can you talk about that and clarify, what type of data are we ingesting for free in Azure Sentinel?
Sure. So first of all of your Microsoft security alerts are ingested into Azure Sentinel at no additional cost. So this includes alerts from the Microsoft 365 Defender, as well as the Azure Defender solutions, Microsoft Cloud App Security as well. And then there are a handful of other data sources, Microsoft Cloud data sources that are available at no cost. One of those is your Office 365 activity logs. This includes SharePoint, Exchange, and Teams. And so you can ingest those data sources as well at no additional cost.
Great. There was, related to pricing, there was another question on Azure Lighthouse, whether Azure Lighthouse would be available at cost for partners and customers. The answer is Azure Lighthouse is available free for anyone who wants to use it. And that's what is leveraged to provide the managed security experience that Jordan was talking about. So coming specifically to log analytics, Jordan, maybe you can answer this. What's the best practice in terms of managing user access to log analytics containing sensitive data?
Right, so Sentinel is built with RBAC in mind, and so role-based access control. When you think about Sentinel, there's different permissions available to it. And so whether you are the admin or configuring the different options within Sentinel, there's a specific role built out for that. There's also a role for someone responding to threats and just reading the incidents as they come through. And so making sure you're going at the subscription level, you're looking at the roles that you've assigned out, and then from the log analytics workspace level, making sure that your users have the right permissions there. And so if you have access to a subscription and you have read access across that subscription, for Sentinel, that would mean that you can read that workspace within that subscription, but to tune the rules to make sure it's perfect for your SOC, you have to go through that exercise of really mapping out what those roles and permissions should look like for your users.
Got it. And then related question, what if the data is residing in multiple workspaces in log analytics? How do you bring that together, or what are the best practices there?
Yeah, and so this directly relates to our earlier talk on MSSPs and Azure Lighthouse. And so if you have access to multiple workspaces or even multiple tenants and being able to view across them, Sentinel does have some capabilities that lets you view across them. Of course, you'd still need those roles and those permissions associated with the respective workspaces and the respective subscriptions, but the framework is there within Sentinel to view across, as long as you do have those permissions.
Got it. Switching gears again, there are some questions about costs. One particular ingestion cost cheaper if using Defender ATP, or now it is a Microsoft Defender for endpoint versus CrowdStrike. So inherently, Sarah talked about the integrations we have and we are planning, which makes it easier and saves costs. But Sarah, do you want to talk about that just to reemphasize, not just cheaper, but broadening it up on the integration part as well?
Sure. So as I mentioned earlier, we've got a new connector that we're launching this week for Microsoft 365 Defender Endpoint that brings in a single click a variety of different raw logs from your endpoint devices. And this adds to integration that's already available or was previously available for the endpoint alerts as well. And so connecting all of your Microsoft 365 and Azure data sources is very easy to do. Now, the new offer, the promotion that I mentioned earlier, is going to offer some cost savings as well for customers that are using both our Microsoft Security, Microsoft 365 Defender stack in conjunction with Azure Sentinel. And we can share more about those, the details of that offer, which launches November 1st when we get a bit closer. But we do have a promotion that's going to make it provide some cost savings for customers that are using both our SIEM and our XDR solutions.
On that topic, can users today update or dismiss alerts in Azure Sentinel that are originating in MCAS or other Microsoft security solutions?
So we are working on a Roundtrip integration that would enable you to update an incident, let's say in Sentinel, and have that reflected in your other Microsoft security products and services. So that's definitely on the roadmap. There's some ways to do that today using automated playbooks, but we'll have a more native integration coming soon.
Awesome.
Right, and a lot of those playbooks are available today in the GitHub community. So if you can't wait and you need to test it out right now, it's a good place to start.
That's great. And Jordan, there's a question. Can Azure Sentinel help us with compliance and DLP requirements?
Right, so Sentinel is as strong as the logs that you provide it with. And so one of the hottest blogs that I've come across is bringing the Office DLP logs directly into Sentinel. And there's ways to do that via API, but you can bring DLP related logs in Sentinel. You can build detections off of it too using analytic rules, but it's really about making sure that the data source or those raw logs are actually in Sentinel to be able to monitor and respond to them.
Awesome.
One thing I might add to that is I noticed the other day there was a great workbook. These are kind of interactive dashboards inside of Azure Sentinel. There are a couple of great ones that have been contributed to our GitHub that provide compliance related insights. So there's one that enables you to filter down based on different compliance frameworks, PCI and others, and leverage a variety of different data sources to provide you with visibility into your compliance state. So, of course, to Jordan's point, again, that's going to be powered by the data that you bring in. But just interesting to note, there were some really cool workbooks contributed by the community that really are designed around providing compliance visibility.
Cool. Now, Sarah, we have introduced UEBA in Azure Sentinel, right? We have Microsoft Defender for Identity, formerly known as Azure ATP. And so there were some questions about when to use one versus other, or what's the integration between them. Doesn't the Microsoft Defender for Identity also do some kind of behavior analytics and user profiling? Can you talk about that and how, again, complementary and how UEBA in Azure Sentinel works?
Yeah, so insights, not only the raw logs, but detections from our identity products and services, again, can be integrated into Azure Sentinel. So it's not an either-or scenario. Our UEBA engine is going to offer it's the same UEBA engine that's powering those behavioral analytics across Microsoft. What you're going to get in addition in Azure Sentinel is the ability to apply that to non-Microsoft data sources as well. So you can think about kind of extending behavioral analytics to any of the data sources that you can ingest into Azure Sentinel. Now, it'll take some time to support all of those various data sources. We're starting with a subset of those, and details on that are available in the documentation. But you can imagine over time, we will extend that to incorporate behavioral analytics on a large and varied set of data that resides inside Sentinel.
Right. Somebody wants a very specific answer from you, Sarah. When will the automated response for Microsoft security logs available?
When will the automated response for what? I'm sorry.
Microsoft security logs. So all the integrations that you talked about earlier on how we are working on round-tripping the alerts between different Microsoft security products, the timing of it, the roadmap of it.
Yeah, so it is a high priority for the team. They're actively working on it. So I expect you'll see something, in the next 6 months, but I just don't have a concrete timeline that I can share with you. In the meantime, though, again, I encourage you to check out the automated playbooks, which leverage logic apps to complete automated remediation and help to keep incidents and alerts in sync across the various systems.
Great. Now, one thing that folks haven't asked here, but we typically get asked is, and maybe Jordan, you can answer that, is we have all these out-of-the-box connectors, analytic rules, etc., etc. But folks can go deeper as well. We talked about how simple it is, and for a small security team, you can set it up quickly. But for more mature SOC who wants to go deeper, they can, and for that they have to use KQL. So can you talk about that and what does it need? What the degree of sophistication needed there?
Yeah, so whether it's workbooks within Sentinel, analytic rules, hunting queries, the list goes on, and responding to threats, KQL is really the backbone and querying, so Kusto query language within Sentinel. And so the best way to get started with learning KQL, if that's new for your organization, because this is the language that Azure Monitor queries in. So if you're already good there, then you're all set. But a good way to get started is the free Pluralsight training available for KQL. But on top of that, something that I recommend for all of my customers that I meet with is look to the templates that we already have available. So look to our workbooks already available in Sentinel, where you can view user sign-ins reflected from Azure AD. You can see the visualizations and how they map to the queries themselves. So it's a great way to get started and learn KQL on top of all of the samples already out there.
Got it. So we are almost out of time. So each one of you, what's the highlight that you want to share with these folks here today? Inside of 1 minute.
1 minute highlight. Gosh, this is hard. Well, I will say Ignite's a little bit different this year, right? We're virtual. I'm kind of missing, meeting many of you in person and getting the chance to connect. But I do feel good about, I feel like we're kind of making this virtual thing work. And so I would say I'm kind of proud of how our team and the attendees have made it work. And then the other one I would just say, I'm going to do two, but I'll try to be quick, is just really proud of the team and the stuff that we've landed here. It's been a challenging, several months, frankly, for many people around the world. And, the team has just, not taken their eye off the ball, so to speak, and just delivered, a set of new features and capabilities that I'm really proud to be able to represent at Ignite this week. So that's a bit of a highlight for me on the personal front.
Jordan?
Yeah, I guess Sarah took it away with the personal element of this and the work and the collaboration that we've seen at Ignite and within our product team. But some highlights that I would like to mention is we recently launched the Microsoft Learn course for Azure Sentinel. And so if you liked what you heard today and you haven't used Sentinel yet, that's a great place to start. Go do the Learn training, and then if you're empowered enough, bring it up to your SOC and you can start that 31-day trial and begin with Sentinel.
That's awesome. As I said, you are making my job easier. So great, folks. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really, really appreciate you folks joining us and engaging with us on Azure Sentinel. Hope this was useful. And we have many helpful links for you here, as well as we'll put that in the chat window as well. Again, thank you. If you have any questions, join the community, ask us questions, seek help, or participate in the community. Again, thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, y'all.